Okay, Xbox is really starting to lose me with these price increases. While we've seen price increases industry-wide, Xbox's increases, it feels like it's on another level. So it all began back in May of 2025 when Xbox announced that they're going to be raising prices for hardware across the board. So, for example, right here we can see that the Xbox Series S 512GB version went from $300 to $380. And then you've got price increases like the 2 terabyte version of Xbox Series X, which went from $600 to $730, just to name a few. And that was already like a pretty significant price jump that got people skeptical about the future of Xbox. Xbox is lagging behind compared to its competitors, and the price point being at that level certainly doesn't help optics for Xbox. But then things got worse when on September 19th, 2025, it was announced that Xbox would be increasing prices yet again, with the Series S going from $380 to $400, and then the 2 terabyte version of the Series X going from $730 to $800. So that means that since launch, Series S has gotten $100 more expensive, and the 2 terabyte version of Series X since launch has gotten $200 more expensive. Microsoft also tried to follow Nintendo's pricing model and make their games $80, but that's something that they eventually had to backpedal on. So, for example, Outer Worlds 2 was planned to be $80 after Nintendo decided to essentially raise the floor by making Mario Kart World $80, thereby giving other companies permission to kind of push the boundaries on this. But the backlash was bad enough that Outer Worlds 2 eventually was priced back down to $70, and it's something that for now they're backing off on, but who's to say that they won't in the future apply this new price point. And then there's the Xbox ROG Ally, whose price point was a little higher than people were anticipating. Initial reports suggested that price points for the ROG Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X would be $550 and $900 respectively. We learned recently that those price points are actually a little higher, with the official announcement placing the ROG Xbox Ally X at $1,000 and the ROG Xbox Ally, the regular version, at $600. So it's been price increase galore for Xbox, and in large part it does have to do with tariffs, but then certain things like the digital distribution of games, tariffs shouldn't apply. So the attempted increase of game prices from $70 to $80 is not excusable when it comes to tariffs, and neither is the increase in price for Xbox's subscription model, Xbox Game Pass. That's right, on top of everything else, every other area where Xbox has significantly increased prices, they're doing the same for what is kind of their flagship service. There are already indications of this yesterday on September 30th, 2025, when people noticed that Xbox put out the following statement saying, quote, "Starting October 1st, you will no longer be able to directly redeem your rewards points for Xbox Game Pass subscriptions. To continue enjoying Xbox Game Pass using your rewards points, you now need to first redeem your rewards points for an Xbox gift card and then redeem your Xbox gift card for your desired Game Pass subscription." But yeah, they essentially made the process of redeeming rewards points for Xbox Game Pass subscriptions have significantly more friction. But the big headliner is the way Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is the version that includes all of the features, and it's the one that you really want, has increased its price, its monthly price, significantly. We're talking about a 50% price increase from $20, which is what it was before, to now $30 a month, which means that Game Pass Ultimate now costs $360 a year. And then beyond that, PC Game Pass prices increase as well from $12 to $16.50 a month. And reactions to this announcement have been very negative, with top replies to this announcement including comments like, "When I said I wanted the 360 era back, I didn't mean $360 a year." Here we have somebody else, Tom Warren, putting it in more context, saying that that means it's $360 a year, which is more than the Xbox Series S priced at $300 when it first launched. Now, to compensate for this price increase, Xbox did try to add more features to Game Pass Ultimate. So things like the addition of Ubisoft Plus Classics and EA Play included now, with Fortnite Crew coming in November. they added more games to the library, so on and so forth. But whether those additions actually add value will depend on a player-by-player basis. Some players may have already played all of the recent additions, like the fact that a bunch of Assassin's Creed games have been added and games like Hogwarts Legacy, among others. Plenty of Ubisoft titles in particular have recently been added. And if you're someone who plays a lot of games every month and you haven't played a lot of the recent additions, then the value might be there. But for a lot of folks, it's starting to feel like Xbox Game Pass's value is diminishing significantly with how quickly prices, monthly fees are increasing. A 50% increase is pretty substantial. And then combine that with price increases elsewhere across the board, like Xbox hardware being roughly 30% more expensive than the initial launch MSRP, combined with the Xbox ROG Ally X being more expensive than anticipated at $1,000, and then the attempted increase of the AAA first-party game releases from $70 to $80, which they did backpedal on, but that doesn't mean that that backpedal is permanent. You've got a situation where the Xbox ecosystem as a whole it's just way too expensive. And when you've got a platform that is falling woefully behind competition like Nintendo and PlayStation, this kind of price increase can be woefully detrimental. Nintendo and PlayStation offer their own subscription services as well, and with these kinds of price increases, those competing propositions just suddenly look significantly better. And while Xbox has released some really good games over the last few, months and years, it doesn't change the fact that compared to the system sellers that you get on Nintendo and PlayStation, on that front, Xbox just doesn't feel like they've quite matched the level of the competition. So in terms of the software and games output that Xbox is offering from a first-party perspective, and the fact that exclusives are no longer really exclusive, the value really starts to diminish significantly when it comes to like owning an Xbox or, being fully ingrained in the Xbox ecosystem. Given its current present circumstances, the last thing Xbox needs right now is these kinds of aggressive price increases. With hardware, it's a little bit more understandable because of tariffs, though even then, Xbox price increases are just so significant compared to the competition that it looks like a much less compelling value proposition. But then when you look at the software side of things where tariffs don't apply, whether it's the price of digitally sold games or the price of subscription services like Game Pass, that stuff seeing such a significant price increase, it's just going to be a harder sell for a platform that already is falling way behind. You can see responses to, for example, Xbox Game Pass's recent post, 2 words, more rewards. The responses from the community from this official Xbox Game Pass post indicate a general lack of positive sentiment, with people saying things like sorted and showing just the fact that they've recently canceled their Xbox Game Pass subscription. Scrolling further down, you'll find people saying things like 3 words, 30 frickin' dollars, so on and so forth. More screenshots of subscription cancellations. Another person saying 2 words, more expensive. So yeah, these recent price announcements, these recent price increases have continuously generated more and more bad will. And look, that's not to say that for some $30 a month for, access to hundreds of games that you don't own, but that you do get to have access to if you're someone who plays games frequently on a monthly basis, won't be of good value to certain individuals. But generally, the aggressiveness of marked up prices for software and hardware, it's getting to a point where it's starting to feel untenable, where it's starting to feel like the value proposition of Xbox Game Pass is just not worth what it once was. A lot of those great value proposition elements that Xbox pitched, so with the Xbox Series S, for example, now its marked up price no longer making it as viable of a console given its weak power compared to competing consoles. And now with Xbox Game Pass, the subscription being so much higher now, that, you have to question now whether you want to get something like this instead of it being a good companion to purchasing premium price games at $70, of which you can buy roughly 5 of and then meet the yearly price point of Xbox Game Pass, except those 5 AAA games that you buy at $70, you actually get to keep, and it's yours, and it's not dependent on subscription. When you look at all of these other factors now and the competition, you realize that the price increases really diminish the value of all of Xbox's ventures. When you really think about it, for $360 a year for Game Pass Ultimate, you might as well get a good combination of, full price AAA games and indie games that are, priced at lower than your premium price point. And you'll get a lot of games for $360 that might make that value better than just getting Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, because not only can you get a decent volume of games, but you actually get to keep those games, and they're not tied behind a subscription. You can access those for a very long time without any strings attached. But as we wait and see how all this will ultimately impact Xbox as a platform and Xbox Game Pass as a subscription service, whether this will diminish subscriptions, increase subscriptions, and what subscription rates will look like moving forward, while we wait for those results, I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on recent price increases. Do you think Xbox is justified? Do you think Xbox Game Pass is still a good value at $30 for the Ultimate version? Or do you foresee all of this being hugely detrimental to the Xbox platform and its longevity as a whole? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.